Welcome to Built on the Rock, a docuseries where we're talking about the unshakable values, venerated products, and the relationships that built the coast. Today, in episode 1, we're sitting down with Lanny, Trey, and Sam Moore talking about the rise of Suncoast becoming beach lumber right here in Long Beach, Mississippi. I'm your host, Henry Paris, and this is Built on the Rock.
Why don't we have a serious conversation, and then at the end of that on our website you can put the bloopers.
Sure, there'll be a few of them.
At the very beginning, I had this thing on me when I was like, aliens.
If I didn't, I got you now.
You got me now. Okay, well,
I think the Jackie Chan bloopers on whatever that.
the mom is gone.
Now what's that one?
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour is.
Man, that's all we've been through. Rush Hour 1,
Rush Hour
2, Rush Hour 3.
Yeah.
On the shot. All right, well, Lanny, you have the only pleasure of being in South Carolina when this thing started. So if you could run me from day one and give me an overview and explain how in the world us four men are sitting in Long Beach, Mississippi talking about lumber.
So back in the late 1960s, 1970s, early 1980s, my dad was with a company, Builder Marts of America, who owned and had affiliate lumber companies all over the country. They combined their buying power, they combined their best practices, and that was that's my dad's background. In the early 1980s, my dad was traversing the country, harvesting best practices from, companies in Chicago and Raleigh-Durham and Dallas, and actually here on the Mississippi coast, Bailey Lumber was one of their affiliates back in the day.
No kidding.
It is interesting how things come full circle. Anyway, a long story short, my dad saw the beginnings of Home Depot and Lowe's as being just a tectonic shift in the lumber industry. In those days, a lumber company sold lawn chairs, sold framing nailers, and had piles of lumber, and sold framing lumber and doors and windows, etc. So my dad saw what was coming, decided to cash in his chips, and that was the capital we had to start the business. But probably the even bigger inspiration to my dad to start something on his own is he wanted to have a business that was Christ-centered, that was biblically based, that the way we treated our coworkers, our customers, our vendors would be done in an honorable way, that a lot of just businesses do what's in their own best interest and not necessarily in the best interest of the other stakeholders, which are employees, customers, vendors, etc. So I was still in college at Furman University. I was a senior in college, and my dad asked all of us kids, who wants to come be in the lumber business? We're going to start a company from scratch. And I had never wanted to be in the lumber business, but as I'm facing graduation with no real job prospect, I thought, sign me up.
Doesn't sound terrible.
It doesn't sound so bad. It's a job and a paycheck. And I loved working with my dad. My dad and I worked together for 25 years and had a great relationship, and I learned a lot, and hopefully I've been able to pass some of those truths on to this next generation. And Lord willing, we've got some great days ahead.
The irony of how similar that is, because coming out of Chattanooga, Emily and I were just dating at the time, and I was, we'll call it in between jobs, wasn't really fond of the one that I currently had. And then how does selling sticks and glass for a living sound like? And I was like, I have no idea what that sounds like, but that sounds way better than the current options on the table. And how that's even, become full circle is like, even in this, 10-foot radius is where you and I had the conversation, be like, hey, is it cool if I become a forever employee or member of the family at that point? And,
I remember.
Yeah.
No, I remember as well. But no, that's cool. All right, I kind of want to fast forward to the 2004, 2005 era. I know there was some renovations happening on the yard, but without having a crystal ball at the time, we know what happens 3 or 4 years later in the crash of '08. So I would assume that during the Building 5 era, there was a sense of optimism, enthusiasm. So I wasn't there. I'm curious. What was the mindset back in the early 2000s?
Well, the early 2000s, business was booming. Everybody thought the end of the world was going to come when the World Trade Centers came down, but actually after the world recovered, it was boom time, and it was so good you kind of thought it'll never end. We, at that time, did great amounts of business. There would be trucks lining up for a mile trying to make deliveries to us. It was so busy there was not room for one more forklift or one more delivery truck to come or go. We purchased 2 contiguous and adjacent pieces of real estate.
High dollar words.
So we had room to grow, and all of that happened. And then the great crash of '08, '09, '10, '11, '12. I mean, it was
Contiguous years, if you will.
Never really ended.
No, it was bad, guys. We went from 25,000 building permits in Lee County, Florida, to less than 1,000 in 2010. So you got like a 99% decrease in building permits, and that's where we make our money.
Yep.
I guess the bright side of that is half of our competition went out of business. So when things did come back, you're not competing against half of your competition. So in God's providence, it worked out well, but it was tough and it was scary.
And it was '09 when we started the lumber yard here in Long Beach?
That's correct. In '09, well, actually late '08, we purchased the real estate where we are. In Florida, where the home base was, we had delivery trucks, forklifts, door hanging equipment, all this stuff that was more or less sitting idle. So one of our customers, a guy named Jimmy Oriole, was from the Mississippi coast and suggested we give it a real hard look to open up an operation there. That you've got lots of waterfront real estate, you've got a lot of rebuilding opportunities after Hurricane Katrina. So we came and looked around and thought it would be a good idea. And ultimately it has been, but the economy continued to get worse in '09 and '10. Then we had the BP oil spill, which put a deep freeze on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And you just learned to trust God, because those were some scary times.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I was going to say, I remember, there was so much of that with '08, '09 that I wasn't totally privy to just because of my age. But I remember when we were I think we were visiting Aunt Carol and their family. We were up in Rock Hill. And I remember you getting a phone call. We were at the movies, and you had to book it out of there. And I go outside to go check on you, and you're sitting on the curb of the road just trying to figure out how the heck you're going to make it.
Yeah, no,
I didn't realize how bad it was then until, obviously I'm old enough now to look back and see that, but back then I just remember, we were all together. Next thing you know, Dad's gone, and I'm like, oh gosh, what the heck happened?
Yeah.
The thing is, when you got the call from, it was either Uncle Bill or somebody down in Florida letting you know, hey, this isn't just bad, this is really bad.
Yeah, and we had 120 employees in 2005, and by 2010 we're down to 45 employees. Wow. And interestingly, we would let people go, starting with our least favorite employees for whatever reason, and then you're getting down to people who you know and love and have been with the company for years. And the sad fact of that whole cycle is some of your best people that you ultimately had to let go, you're turning loose in a job market where there were no jobs. The guys that you let loose on day one, went and got a job managing a Walgreens or doing something. And the guys you let loose on the very tail end are walking into just an impossible job market.
Yeah.
So
How long was it from day one Long Beach to your arrival? Were you here super, super close to the beginning, or was there like a 2-year lag?
I moved here in 2014. We were doing not a lot of business, maybe I want to say right around $6 million of business is what number sticks in my head. But really, I just came up looking for an opportunity. I had been in Gainesville, had been in inside sales, and had kind of built a territory even from the office, and wanted the opportunity to go into outside sales. The company I was with just didn't have the ability to afford that to me at the time. And so Dad and I were in a conversation one night and had mentioned that there was going to be some opportunity to try to put an additional outside salesperson up here to grow. And I was like, well, why not me? And I wanted to go somewhere truly where nobody really knew me, because that was what Dad and Granddad got to do back in Fort Myers back in the day. They had to show up and just build something.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. The opportunity to come up here and do that was exciting to me.
Maybe this is a spot where I bring in Mima's picture and say, this is Mima, but I had the chance to interview her when I was down there in Florida last.
Oh, cool.
And she had a really cool story, and I think you already know where I'm going with this, of the figuring it out process.
Yeah.
They actually, do you want to go ahead and tell it?
No, go ahead.
All right. Well, so they thought it was a good idea at the time to buy fireplaces in the name of figuring it out. And there's obviously like a trial and error to a lot of things and how things are geo-specific. But I remember it was funny because Mima is respectfully old and has seen a lot of things. And so for her to just think that was so to her core funny, it's like, and they thought fireplaces. But y'all managed to get rid of them, and I think the other one was large ceiling fans. So as y'all were starting to niche down into the custom luxury home market, there's a couple of, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember the fans, but I do remember
Everybody needs a fan.
what was a big seller up in South Carolina were these pre-made fireplaces. What is not a big seller in Southwest Florida is a pre-made fireplace.
It's odd.
Yeah, but I'd say super odd, given that it's 98 degrees on average.
Yeah, no joke. So,
Okay, we live and we learn. Sam, when did you get plopped here in Mississippi?
So I got plopped up here in 2019 in June. There was me and I think there was a few other people that all pretty much started right around the same time.
2019 June.
Yeah, June of 2019.
So you'd have been, that's about 9-10 months before basically the world shut down, right?
Basically. No, I pretty much, I got up here, and the previous general manager, Chuck, he was coaching me on how to, I was moving into the purchasing role, and he coached me on just how that works, how that operates. Hey, you got X amount that you keep on hand. You have X amount that you sell a month. You do the math and you just figure out how much you need to buy that week just to keep the shelves full. And it was pretty simplistic until it wasn't. Like you said, when the world shut down, it was right after Rach and I had our first Titus. A couple months later, COVID hit, and it hit the markets, and then everything shut down. And then basically, I got over the next course of a couple of years, I got a Harvard education on how to leverage supply chains and how to buy and play markets. And it was a lot of fun, but it was really scary and daunting and stressful.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, at the end of the day, when you're thrown to the wolves like that, you figure it out.
Yeah.
You have no other choice. You have to figure it out. It's sink or swim.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good opportunity for me, even though I clearly did not have the experience to be in a market like that, but it gave me really good experience to get to, frankly, just where I'm at now. So.
All right. So yeah, this brings us up to February 15th, 2021. I moved here, got a job being a puller, and then have worked through the ranks of puller, installer, the glorious dispatch position, and then now into.
Would you like to tell the camera what James Drennan called it? Working you like a government mule.
Yeah, no, the man is a man of his word, and I felt like a heads up would have been nice. But
I think one of my favorite parts when you first got started, I think it was like a weekend, and I saw you like laying out concrete pavers, like those 16
Yeah,
by
I placed
16
my thumb on
squares,
those.
just to give us a path to get back to the sales office.
Yeah, and then there was one time where I was wearing, it was a purple Suncoast Mardi Gras shirt. It was an XL because it was just what was left. It was raining, looked like a 3XL, and one of you jokers rolled down the window and said, they got smalls inside. And I'm like, man.
That does not sound like something I would have said.
Man, wouldn't it
I
be
wouldn't
cool
have
to be
said that
those
either.
guys?
I wouldn't have said that either.
The both strenuous and tedious process to get 40 2x4s to a job in 30 minutes. I mean, it's debatably a miracle some days. And unless you do those various things, which I think everybody has at some point in time, like you don't have the appreciation for it.
That's right.
Or
Yep.
you don't know how deep you need to dig in order to make it happen.
That's right.
Yep.
But
Amen.
all right. So Sam, you went from, and I think this is a important thing as far as like the holistic context, but like you went from being the store purchaser into commercial, because the
Yes.
commercial division seems to be some sort of miraculous relational connection that then just was like, and we're doing this now. And recently, or I'd say for a few years, we've been pretty successful at it. So
Yeah.
not as of now, because that thing has morphed and changed as far as your role goes, but the post-COVID commercial buying, what was that like for you?
Daunting and stressful.
You didn't figure it out at the
But
store
no,
level?
the reason why we went that route is, the yard was so busy with just the amount of orders and influx of orders that was coming in, and I was maintaining it, but then multifamily commercial side also was just ramping up and just going gangbusters. And it really got to a point where it was, the way we were buying at the store level and the way we needed to buy and manage jobs at the multifamily level, it was two different buying strategies. It was two different methods. And to really be able to just solely focus on that, we really just had to go ahead. I had to pluck myself out of that and just fully focus on the multifamily front. And it was stressful at first because there was some decisions that were made at the beginning where, it's like, I'm going to make this call and, I might sink the company because the dollars were that big. Or I might make the company a bunch of money. But
You don't need to tell me that now, Sam.
no, I mean, there's like no
it's okay
joke. I mean,
now.
every decision during COVID, it wasn't at the residential level, like a lot of decisions we make day to day and decisions we make are, $100 there, maybe $1,000 there. At the multifamily level during COVID, when things spiked, I mean, a decision that you'd make, I mean, it was
They have a
minimum.
$50,000 swing to
No,
it?
it was a
No,
minimum.
like
It was
a
like a
million.
$250,000 decision to the negative or the positive. There were jobs where we thought we were making the right call, and next thing you know, like we shorted a position, and then we got hung for it, or we went long on a position. Now we have a pile of lumber that it's like, well, where do we go with it? So it was stressful because it was hard to find the material when you needed it, and when it was available, you almost just had to get your hands on it, and then just figure out where it was going to go after that. So it was very stressful, but it was really fun, and honestly, I enjoyed the heck out of it because it turned into just
You
a
and I
giant
have
chess
different
match.
definitions of fun.
Amen.
I've gotten much more risk averse as I've gotten older.
The more pressure I have on me, the more fun I have.
School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, there's several tweaks, changes, updates, I think, inside the company. But for the most part, that post-COVID to 2025, there was, I think, some level of stability, figuring it out, right people, right seat on the bus analogy that we'll use sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm going to just go ahead and skip to the rebrand or the brand refresh. So, because when we first started here in Long Beach, Mississippi, we were Suncoast Contractor Supply, but the story goes that we were on paper as Beach Lumber DBA Suncoast. Is that about right?
That is correct.
So there was a point where I think just on a practical level, like we wanted to have, I'm not going to name any hardware brand of the architectural variety, but like we wanted them to stop sending into Florida when we ordered them. And so it was a opportunity for us to recommit to the name, or excuse me, it was an opportunity to commit to the name, but recommit to the values that I think once were just, since there's, almost a decade of time or more than that since we started. And I think that has been interesting, we'll say, because it's almost like we're the new kids on the block and we've been here for almost 20 years. And so trying to get over that hump. So that's why I think, like, even in this, it's the story of how Suncoast became Beach, because I think it's the Suncoast DNA, the heritage, the core values that then has built the business. And, we just went by, stopped going by our nickname and started going by our government name at this point.
That's right.
But shortly thereafter, and I think it's cool because this was implemented at about the same time as the brand refresh, so it's a mental shift. But Trey, there's the difference between evolutionary and revolutionary. Evolution, I think, is what the 20 to 2025 range was. Like, we were making incremental improvements, but revolutionary is when you actually bust through the ceiling and you feel like you're in a new category. And I think that is largely in part of the EOS model. So if you want to briefly talk about that and just the importance that it's been to the company.
Sure. So it's still largely in its infancy for us, but the whole concept behind EOS as a leadership structure and an organizational structure is bringing regular accountability to your organization. The idea is that is a culmination of your people having the right people in the right seats, and that the people that are in those seats get what it is they're supposed to do. They want what it is they're supposed to do, and they have capacity for it. It's having vision, making sure your mission, your vision, your values are clearly stated. They're written. People know what those things are and how they impact your company.
And as you hire and fire people and you run them through the sieve of, do they match up with our values?
That's right.
Yep.
Well, it becomes more of a data-driven decision. It's data-driven and it's values-based as you're looking at hiring and firing the person. It doesn't become, I don't like you. It becomes, hey, this is a core value that you didn't display, and because of that, and because this is a regular occurrence, this is what we've got to do.
But if we were having a problem with Henry, the first thing we'll do with the EOS model is, well, how does Henry measure up with our values?
That's right.
Does he
display stewardship? Is he trustworthy? Is he relational in the best kind of way? Integrity, discipline, and excellence.
Right. And if Henry doesn't measure up on those things, then we go, yeah, we do have a problem, versus it being something like, I just don't feel like Henry's the right guy.
Yeah. So you have your vision component, you have your people component, you have a data-driven business. That's something that's really I would say a tectonic shift for us as a company. Historically, we've always looked at what I'm going to call trailing indicators, which is what did we sell, what kind of margin did we make, are we still profitable, as opposed to looking at what the business is telling us to try to make good decisions and informed decisions going into the future. And so it's data, it's processes, getting core processes documented, and not only documented, but adopted, right? And then it's also just the overall concept of traction. And traction, the idea behind that is taking the business to more of a 90-day world. In the next 90 days, what is the business, what is the market telling us that we need to be focused on? Right? And so internally, we refer to those as rocks. And it's 3 to 5 items that are vitally important to the life of the business that we accomplish in that span. And those are regularly measured. They're looked at regularly, weekly in our meetings, level 10 meetings. And then probably one of my favorite components of the EOS model is just the way in which it attacks issues. In every weekly meeting, there's a 60-minute block of time that's set aside for issue tracking, and issue time is really your opportunity to hear the voice of not only the customer, but also the team. What are the problems that we face? What are our challenges that we're facing in the field? Or what are the things we're causing in the field? What are those things? Let's get down to the root of it. So you have 3 components that you have. It's IDS, it's identify what is the problem itself. and what is actually the root of the problem. Not just, well, I don't like Henry. Well, why don't I like Henry? Well, let's get to the root of that, right? So that you're identifying what the real problem is.
Or Henry can't sell nothing.
Yeah.
Like, why?
I mean, you said it. But then we discuss that and we flesh that out and we look at the possible opportunities and ways we can solve that. And then ultimately we assign the solution to somebody to own that and take that over the finish line. And so, again, we're still in our infancy of launching and rolling that out. But the goal is that ultimately we become a company that, to quote Dad, and I'm sure he got this from Granddad, but just a company that does the little things right every day without fail. That we can be dependable, predictable, and reliable. And that is ultimately what we are striving to be in the marketplace.
Can I come work for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I got a GM spot open.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, before we get too much, moved on from this, you said the word rocks, and I feel like we're going to leave here and be like, Trey does rocks for a living. Can you explain the visual analogy of how rocks then tie into the EOS model?
I thought you'd never ask. Well, so the idea of the rocks as it relates to EOS is, if you think about life or business, you've got rocks, gravel, and sand. You have things that are really, really important, which is what we would refer to as rocks. Those are absolutely mission critical to what we do every day. You have the gravel, which is things that you need to get done, but they're not mission critical to the future of the organization. Then you have the sand, which is, I don't know any way other to call it than just the ash and trash of the day-to-day. It's the 50 phone calls that you make or receive. It's all the text messages you send and receive. It's the things that we allow to ultimately fill our jar. So what the human default is we fill our jar with sand and with gravel, and then we try to stuff our rocks in on the top. There's no room for them because the sand and gravel have filled it up. But if we take our jar, that same jar, and we put our rocks in first, and then we pour the sand and the gravel, and the sand and the gravel fill in around the rocks. But if the sand and the gravel go in first, your rocks have no ability to fit. And I don't know if this is the right time for this, but the other thing where my head goes just as a business, and we're built on biblical principles, but Matthew chapter 7, Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, kind of to culminate and wrap up the Sermon on the Mount, equates the Christian life and just life in general to having two options. You can build your house on the rock. You can build your house on the sand, right? And we just talked about it a minute ago, the jar with the sand, there is no room for rocks, right? So this is what Jesus says in Matthew chapter 7. It says, everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rains fell and the floods came. And I want you to notice it says, and the rains and the floods and the winds blew. It doesn't say if and when, it says and. Like it is going to happen. The storms of life are inevitable. Mm-hmm. Storms of business are inevitable. 2008, 2009 happened. Something else will happen at some point, inevitably. It's just the nature of the world we live in. But it did not fall because it was built on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who builds his house on the sand. And the rains fall, and the floods come, and the winds blow and beat against that house, and it falls, and great is the fall of it. And so, I really hadn't thought about this in this context till right now, but when you build your business plan around rocks, you take what's vitally important to actually moving the ball forward. Jesus is vitally important to building a life that can weather the storms that come, whether that's marriage challenges, financial trouble, business challenges. If your hope is in Christ and your house is built on that rock, it can weather those storms. Doesn't mean that the storms aren't going to come. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean that you're going to enjoy the storm. But the house is still going to be there, right? The house that's built on the sand has no foundation. There's no house that's built. I mean, there's a hurricane that's 200 miles off the coast of North Carolina. The houses that have driven piles on the sand are washing into the ocean. Yep. Mm-hmm. That happens every year. It's because it's a bad foundation. And you have that visual there. When you think about it similarly in business, if you let your sand and your gravel fill your cup and not let your rocks be what anchor that cup, you can't get your rocks in there. You can't put a foundation back on top of that.
You know, Jesus goes on to say, not too many verses from there, I think, you know, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things
Will be added to you.
which is maybe that's the sand and the gravel, but seek first the kingdom of God, the rock.
That's right.
How about that for a spiritual lesson?
Yes, we need to put that like in a snippet. Get your own little 30-second reel on there.
Mic drop.
So now that, man, you got the ice maker going crazy. So now that that foundation has been documented, written, and is becoming, I'd say it's in the midst of the implementation process for the adoption process. What are you doing now on a day-to-day, and what do you see, and this could be open to anybody, but what do we see the next 3 years looking like, whether that's in business and culture local to the yard, or maybe the market on a grander scale?
Let me jump in while the rest of you guys think, but what is going through my mind when you ask that question, what goes through my mind every day when I wake up is what things intentionally do I need to do we need to do to be moving the ball forward, to be really accomplishing what God has called us to do, which is go out and, you know, be excellent at what we do. And what am I doing to get there, or what am I not doing that's keeping us from being excellent? I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that was good.
You're
Go
fine.
ahead.
Was that question directed
I mean,
at
Sam's
somebody
eyeballing
specifically?
you. I think.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, I thought you were
you're
about
up.
to say something, so I was
No?
still thinking about it.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah.
3 years' time, what does this thing look like?
In 3 years' time, I would say, you know, one of the most marked differences that you'll see over the course of the next 3 years is you're going to see a laser-focused business. You know, I think we've historically done an exceptional job at having exceptional people, but I think one of the components we've missed is giving everybody a rifle scope to look through and say, that's the target, and that's where we're going to go, and this is how we're going to get there. And a lot of that's going to come from core process documentation. You know, the concept behind core processes is you can't document everything that a business does. If you did that, the book would be that thick, nobody would ever read it. But 20% of your processes make up 80% of your productivity, and those things can be documented. And so what I think is going to be a marked difference is you're going to see a laser-focused business. There's going to be a culture there that will be palpable, that everybody knows and understands who we are, knows and understands our core values, and is bought in to the mission. You know, from a what are we going to look like from a business standpoint, we've got some pretty high aspirations for what we want to grow to. And I feel pretty confident we're going to hit those growth metrics. But what's more important to me than sales revenue or gross margin really and truly is kind of what we discussed before is the culture and the vision. When those are aligned and we have alignment in and amongst the people, the growth's going to happen organically, frankly.
Yeah.
You know, we just recently have acquired a piece of property that we're really excited to start developing and getting pointed in a good direction. So that's going to be a really exciting and new growth opportunity for us. It's going to have an opportunity to house a showroom, which is going to be a big part of who and what we want to do as we move forward. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's
My
what
crystal
I
ball
see.
was a little foggy, so I figured you at least kind of buffed yours off first. So
that's what I see.
no, I think that's cool. Lanny, I'm going to direct this one at you. There's a lot of things that are just moving and shaking. If I were you, I would probably feel a little bit overwhelmed by whether it's Sam spending just large sums of money or Trey and his development ideas. What's the grounding principle that allows you to get a wink of sleep at night?
Because hopefully I have
a great
taught
question,
these
by the way.
boys understand stewardship. At the end of the day, God has given us people resources. He's given us financial resources. He's given us relational resources, and in any change environment, you have to be a good steward of all of those things. And I know the family gets that, and I haven't yet felt like I needed to rein somebody in because we're just going pell-mell down a wrong path. But I think really stewardship is probably the reason that I am comfortable doing what we're doing and having the changes we're in the middle of, because I think they're rooted in good stewardship. And if we make a mistake, we course correct. We're not embarrassed to make mistakes. Some of the greatest lessons and opportunities have come from learning from mistakes. So as long as there's good camaraderie and esprit de corps of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it, and a willingness to go, well, that wasn't the right thing.
We've done that a few times.
We have. We'll do it a few more times.
Can I throw something in on the stewardship front?
Sure.
So something that we are developing, I say developing, it's developed past tense. It's just a matter of getting it rolled out to the team. But we're giving everybody a copy of what's called a decision card that's wallet size, fits in your wallet.
I love this.
But it has our core values on it, right? And our core values are stewardship, which Dad was just referencing, trust, relationships, integrity, discipline, and excellence. And what we want and desire from everybody, top to bottom in our organization, is for people, and this really goes back to stewardship. We want to hire and ultimately train and empower good stewardship. But you can't do that if you've constantly got the controls. I was listening to a Craig Rochelle podcast recently, and he was talking about going through flight school, learning how to fly a plane. And the guy that was training him was just sitting over there kind of smiling, and Craig's up there flying for the very first time. And he said, man, aren't you nervous? I mean, I could kill us right now. And the guy just smiled, and he said, almost like Dad just did a minute ago on the stewardship front, he said, there's really not much you could do that would actually kill us. Now Craig Rochelle, and anybody that doesn't know him, he's a big, buff, jacked dude. He's like, the only thing you could do is force this thing down, and you might be so big and strong, I might not be able to break your arms in time. He said, but other than that, there's literally nothing that can happen. He said, but if I never give you the controls, you'll never learn to fly. And so similarly, what we're looking to do with these decision cards is empower everybody up and down the line, because there's so many little decisions that get made every day, right? The guy out there picking a lumber order for one of our customers has the option in that moment to pick through the lumber and pull quality product, or just grab the first 5 boards off the top of the stack and send them down the road. That's a decision that he has to make, right? And so what we want our people to do is look through the lens of our core values, but then also look through the lens of these 4 questions. Is it what's best for the customer? Is it what's best for the company? Is it moral and ethical? And are you willing to be held accountable for it? If the answer to all 4 of those in your mind is yes, do it. Rock on. If the answer to one of those 4 is no, but you still do it anyways, we're going to have a conversation about it. But we're ultimately looking to create a culture of good stewardship. And part of good stewardship is letting somebody take the controls and go fly the plane for a little bit.
Yeah, and if all of the core values add up to be stride, one could say that there's purpose in every step.
Sure.
Little double entendre. Yeah, I've been sitting on that one. So maybe we can put that one.
Entendre.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of them high dollar words. I've been hanging around y'all for a little bit now.
You also said constellation earlier in a conversation with.
Oh no, that was our meeting today. I don't even know why I said that.
Yeah, nobody else
did either.
I think I was trying to string 2-3 ideas together, but I lost y'all on idea 3 and was already on 5.
You lost us way before idea 3.
No, I like that, purpose in every step.
I like that too. That was good.
And that's all the time we got time for, folks. I'll see you next week on episode 2. I mean, maybe that actually might have been
Next week's episode is Yard Boys. Yard Boys. Sponsored by Celsius and
Ring a ding 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 ding.
Ritz peanut butter crackers.
Yeah, I got an outro, but I'm going to do that when y'all are not here.
It's actually Henry spitting rhymes for 45 seconds.
Purpose in every step. Why have you been sitting on that?
I just was waiting
What
for the
kind-
right time.
No, that's being a bad steward of a great idea.
No,
You
I
should've-
think I said it. Y'all just got lost in the sauce when I said constellations earlier.
Henry, the sentence you said when you threw constellations into that conversation, it was funny because Pete and I made eye contact and both smiled and just, I was like, I don't even know what he said. I don't even know. I know that he said words, but I don't even know how those words meant anything in the English language.
I hope you know that I strung those words together like a woven tapestry hanging in the Sistine Chapel. Like, it just was beautiful and visually made so much sense.
And then everyone looked at each other like, what did he just say?
Exactly.
All right, so this actually concludes episode 1. A little lengthy compared to the other episodes, but so much valuable information was shared, the wins, the losses, the memories made over the course of their building material industry careers. Now, on episode 2, we have Weather Shield Windows and Leah Waters of Waters Architecture. Her and her team designed a phenomenal house with massive black aluminum clad windows right here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. This is Built on the Rock.